Good morning. Welcome back into Wake Up America. International tensions now reaching a boiling point as the war in Ukraine rages on.
Yeah, in rare fashion, the United States joining South Korea and sending missiles into the sea. The move viewed as a response to North Korea's fifth missile launch in just 10 days.
Meanwhile, in Russia, Vladimir Putin continuing to make nuclear threats, reportedly planning a massive nuclear test on the border with Ukraine. Kyiv officials wasting little time distributing potassium iodide pills to protect against a possible strike.
How scary is
yeah,
that?
very scary. For more on what this means, let's welcome in retired Air Force Brigadier General and Newsmax military contributor Blaine Holt. Sir, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to be with you all, and welcome, Alex.
Yes, we love having Alex here. So, General, 5 missile launches in just 10 days from North Korea. This comes as President Putin continues to increase his nuclear threat. So how alarming is it to see two hostile leaders acting pretty much in sync together?
Yeah, it's alarming, and we're in a really dangerous place. But we get to the same common denominator, and this is U.S. leadership weakness, U.S. military weakness on a global stage, and we're watching now. We're reaping what we sow from Kabul.
General, I don't understand why no one is talking about peace. Joe Biden, certainly not President Zelensky in Ukraine. Mind you, this is a country that's not part of NATO. Half of America, the majority of America, couldn't find Ukraine on a map today, let alone before the war started in February. I want to show you a tweet from Elon Musk a day ago. Elon Musk, the most popular account on Twitter. Okay, he might buy the company. He puts this out. By the way, he just gave President Zelensky $80 million in technology so they can keep the internet running over there. But he says, how about this? Russia-Ukraine peace, redo elections of annexed regions under UN supervision. That way, at least they're somewhat legitimate. Russia leaves if that's the will of the people. And then Crimea, formerly part of Russia. It's been that way since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. He's referring to the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 1990s. Zelensky tweeted back, or somebody that is one of Zelensky's aides, basically insulting Elon Musk. General, look. World War III is not an option. Okay, the American people are not going to war for Ukraine in World War III. Why is no one talking about peace?
Well, why is the diplomat in chief Elon Musk? So, we've talked many days about why the Zelensky team would bristle at any notion of that, because they're fighting for every square inch of their earth. That's a Ukrainian issue. They're doing that, so they're probably going to push back on any prepackaged solutions, and they also recognize how powerful an influence Elon Musk has in the world. But to your point, why is the State Department not in airplanes all over the place, garnering international support, getting more international coalitions together, making sure that Russia, India, China understand that this is a fool's errand to a very dangerous place.
Yeah, and General, just a quick follow, General. David Petraeus, we had the soundbite yesterday. He said on Sunday that if Vladimir Putin uses these tactical nukes, then our next move, and this is somebody that used to run the CIA, all right, very prominent general. He says our next move is to take out Vladimir Putin's Russian fleet in the Black Sea. Okay, and then what? And then what? Nuclear winter? We go to nuclear war over Ukraine? Is that really what we're looking at?
My analysis on his statement is that was geared right to the Russian folks, because how many folks in the Kremlin right now do you think respect the White House or Washington or our State Department? It's not a whole lot. But I know for a fact that they all respect General David Petraeus. And so when he speaks, that might have an effect. That might actually change the calculus in Moscow, because I'm worried that Vladimir Putin is so insulated. He has no understanding of what's really happening on that battlefield. He has no understanding of what would really happen if he used a 10-kiloton weapon in one of those Ukrainian cities.
And General, on the Ukrainian side, we know that they can really only sustain as long as the U.S. has its support. The White House announcing $625 million in new weapons packages heading there over the coming months. What do you make of that latest distribution?
Well, it's a distribution off of the earlier amounts that were authorized by Congress. But the biggest and the most important point here is this is not and should not be an open or blank check without any scrutiny whatsoever. And so while we support Ukraine and we want to see Ukraine do well, we're heartened by that. that doesn't mean that there should be no oversight or audit of the money. That's $70 billion. That's a lot more than we would spend in a year in Afghanistan. And the American people deserve a full accounting of what their taxpayer dollars has gone to pay for and where that money's gone.
I think the American appetite is limited, too. We've got enough problems here. Look what happened in Florida. I mean, my goodness, we've got enough problems here. This is just going to go on and on and on.
Yeah, I think the big thing is how much more money are we going to give?
Yeah. General, it just bothers me that de-escalation is never part of the conversation. You hear Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, talk. He never brings up de-escalation. That should be the only conversation we're having, is figuring a way out of this.
We're talking about weapons like the Belgorod's Poseidon weapon. We're talking about the Sarmat. Why is this the common vernacular? It used to be we never threatened each other with nuclear weapons. Even in the Cold War, we would say things like, there could be some really devastating options here. That we have lost our diplomatic footing, and we've got to go get that back. And honestly, the world needs us to do this. It's not just for our country. The world needs us to take this a step.
And our kids and our grandkids and every future generation. Enough's enough. By the way, the Poseidon, that weapon you just mentioned, I looked it up. The nickname of that weapon is the weapon of the apocalypse. That's great. That's wonderful. I'm glad we're talking about that. All right, General Holt, as always, we appreciate the insight. Great having you back on.
Great to be with you.